Hey guys, welcome back in here to Legacy. Sorry about the delay. Let me bring Atmos back in here. Sorry about the delay. we're trying to get the scheduling for this right, and unfortunately, my co-host here got stuck in an 8-hour game. So,
Yep. Very combat heavy. My bad.
yeah, you're all good. That's why we're trying to puzzle the schedule out. That being said, guys, we're finally back on track here to get started today. So, real quick before we get started, just so you guys know, schedule for this going forward, it is going to be bi-weekly, but we're going to do another session next week, and then we're going to go to bi-weekly from there to avoid any conflicts like we had today. So that way we get that all resolved. All that being said, so today's roundtable, I tried to get a couple people on. Scheduling did not work out, unfortunately for us. I'm going to continue trying to get people to come on. This is a new feature, so guys, bear with me as I build it. Hopefully, the camera looks a little better with it not so far away. I'm still working within my limited space. Actually, just you can see the cord for the headset. I actually had to go get an extender for it so that it doesn't stretch like this. Because it's actually about to pull my computer off my dresser, believe that or not. So please bear with me while I'm trying to get some things worked out. All that being said, today we're going to discuss world building from both a storytelling and a mechanics standpoint. Just so everyone's aware, we're going to kind of discuss, and then we'll jump into it. We're going to discuss, how do you build worlds from a story perspective, and then also how do you build worlds from the mechanical perspective? Do you build the mechanics first or the world first? All those kind of things. And hopefully at the end of this, you guys walk away with something you can use, because that's kind of the goal. Either way, you got anything you want to add, Atmos, before we jump in?
Nope. Let's jump in.
All right. So starting with the story aspect, because that's where the best place to start world building is. World building, first thing you got to kind of do, like everything else we're going to talk about, is you got to kind of define what we're talking about when we say world building. In this case, we're talking about actually building the setting of the world of the game, whether that be a single city, whether that be a full world, whether that be a sewer system, whatever. How do you build that? What does that look like? From the ground up. So that's the definition I'm going to run with. What does it look like to actually develop a game world? And hopefully, now that I've said that, that kind of puts us both on the same page, so we don't talk past each other too much. But all things being said, so the first part of this is going to be the story-based part of it. If you need to stop me and you want to add anything at most, just go ahead and do it. So I'm going to start with the story base. So the best way for me to develop a story-based world is I tend to start with the history of a world. That's where I start. I want to know what happened before the events of the game I'm playing. What put the world in the position it's in, what put everything in the position it's in, because then I can better fold ideas into that, particularly old events, older institutions, things like that. For example, churches, charity events, city watches, all that kind of stuff are easier to fold in if I know the history of it. That's just how I view it. Of course, by all means, tell me how you view that. I mean, where would you normally start?
So, for story?
Yeah, for story.
I can't do stories because I'm not a novelist. So I'll let you continue here, and I'll tell you about the mechanics and how I do it myself.
All right, that's fine. Yeah, so as I was saying, if you've got a good backstory for your world, it makes it a lot easier also to build a current world, because your world is not as it's not dry. So a big thing with world building is making your world feel like it's alive. The best campaign settings I've ever played in that are not like IP based, things like Forgotten Realms, Dark Sun, Mutant Chronicles, Infinity. I can go on and on. Even though Infinity is IP based technically, That's actually an interesting story I'll get into in a second, how they actually did that. Um, if you look at how those worlds are built, their backstories are very important because they set the gateway for making a world that feels lived in, at the same time as giving you a very solid starting point. So almost all those worlds have a declared starting point. So, like Forgotten Realms in second edition, the history basically ends, and that's where the campaigns are supposed to start, is within a couple of years of that end point. As far as like I said, as far as that goes, though, they make them feel lived in because if you look at the history of even something like Mutant Chronicles world has a very vast history. And because of that, when you start playing characters in Mutant Chronicles, you already know some of the things that have happened in the past and are likely to happen again. So when you're starting to build your character for Mutant Chronicles, you're building towards those past events as much as future events. So, the Venusian uprisings and all that other stuff are very important to understand. And that's interesting. That brings me into Infinity. So I'm going to sidetrack just for a second and tell you a little bit about how Infinity happened. So Infinity, if you're not aware, is a miniatures game by, who does Infinity right now? I don't remember who does Infinity. Modiphius does the RPG. I don't remember who does the miniatures game right now. Either way, so they came to Modiphius. They wanted to create an RPG. The problem is they didn't have a world. The world for the Infinity miniatures game was incredibly bare bones. So when they went to Modiphius and they wanted to create an RPG, Modiphius said, there's not enough to work with here, basically. We need more. They actually had to go back and retroactively write the history of Infinity in order to build a world, a fully fleshed out world for the RPG. They actually worked a little backwards from how I normally would have worked. But it's a very interesting little side story that's how that happened. Infinity's world was just it was not very thick. The rule book for Infinity is always focused on the combat miniatures rules and all that. It didn't really focus on the lore very much. So there you go. That's an interesting little side story on how people build worlds. So Infinity is an interesting take on how you sometimes have to build the history of, like I said, you have to build a history of the world for the world to feel lived in and to feel like it actually exists or could exist. So all that being said, jumping into some story elements, not necessarily writing stories, but how stories feel, because I know you have opinions on this. The idea that worlds have to be lived in is vital to world building. I think that's a core concept.
I concur.
Yeah. If you guys want to say, like I said, just jump in. So if your world doesn't feel lived in, you kind of can't suspend your disbelief to play in it very well. You see that a lot in video games too. If a video game has a world that just kind of feels static, the game tends not to be very good. Because you don't feel like you're interacting with a world, or especially in RPGs, you don't feel like you're interacting with a world or with characters. You feel like you're interacting with an algorithm. And so, look at everything up through Inquisition for Dragon Age, even Dragon Age 2, which is the weakest of the games. They have a very filled out world. Theodas is very filled out. And then in Inquisition, of course, you get introduced to Orlais and all the Orlesian intrigue and all that fun stuff, which, by the way, is one of my favorite parts of Inquisition. I love the Orlesian politics. It's very underhanded, very late Middle Ages French. So Orlesian politics are awesome. Makes really good setting. But yeah, so when you're talking about making worlds feel lived in, that's very important. What are some things that you look for, just so you can get in here, Atmos? What are some things you look for when you think of, mostly as a player, not even as a GM, that you look for to feel like you're playing in a real world rather than just a stock setting?
Um, a real world.
Yeah.
Instead of a stock setting.
Yeah.
Tend to see whether or not, like, I think emergence is very important. Like, you don't want to be like on the rails with basically telling you.
You are breaking up something fierce, dude.
Here, let me fix that.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, you're better.
Okay. So the world has to be emergent, because I don't want to be, as a player, in a game where like the GM is basically just telling a story that they wrote, like on rails.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And with that being said, the idea of emergent worlds is important too, because for a GM perspective, that's a lot more work, but it's a lot more fun. Because sometimes you have to come up with NPCs on the fly, you have to come up with a new faction on the fly, whatever, to kind of capture the imagination. Being on rails sucks.
Like, just being able to interact with the world and have it actually mean something is really important.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it is a game first.
Yes.
Even though there might be a good story, you always have to basically remind yourself that you are playing a game.
Yes, absolutely. And that gets in some of the mechanical design of world building, but the idea being, another good thing talking about emergent play is morphing NPCs. Like, an NPC doesn't always react the same way every time you talk to them. That's a huge thing for me. If an NPC is static, he never changes his opinions. He always acts exactly the same. That gets into making you feel like you're on rails, because it feels like the GM is not really developing those characters at all, especially if they're important NPCs, like vital to the storyline. Sorry about that.
I do have a lot to say about the mechanics of world building.
Yes.
If you want to get into there.
Yeah, we can jump into that here in just a second. So guys, that's basically how I feel about. I mean, we don't have to spend a lot of time on the story aspect of it, because I think a lot of people understand how to build a story aspect of a world. Now, mechanically, this is going to be the fun part to talk about. World building is a lot different than people think it is, because of how you have to build worlds. And the first place kind of want to start with that is the idea of, for me, do you build around the mechanics, your world around your mechanics, or do you build your mechanics around your world? And I'm kind of split on this, but I think I'm coming down harder on the idea that your world mechanics should reflect the world rather than vice versa. Because being, if the mechanics feel kind of forced, and you want, say, your magic to feel a certain way, but you're using a system that doesn't really reflect that, then you're really going to wind up with a game that kind of feels flat. In a game world that feels kind of flat, because I think Lord Mattias mentioned in his video about Dark Sun, having psionics that feel like magic just makes a new branch of magic. When if you go read Dark Sun, psionics is a totally different bear. Following the way is a lot different than being a preserver or a defiler. And that's actually a really good example of it. Like I said, if you got anything to add to that.
Okay. I'm just going to start leading into like the mechanics. So
that's fine.
But if you talk to me before, I will reiterate that I suck at writing in general.
Yep.
And I lean really heavy into oracles and like solo gaming to like build out my worlds, because I can't trust myself to write a good story, so I fake it that way. And I also have an issue with running an NPC that I don't know anything about, and I usually want to, if they're like an important character, I want to run them in through the world beforehand. And I could give you an example if you want to like make the screen bigger.
Yeah, let me see if I can bring you up alone. Yeah, so let me see. Nope, wrong button. I need to do that to your screen. There we go. There we go.
All right. This is an example. I probably showed this to Legacy before, but I create macros stat blocks for like all the factions for whatever I'm running. So they have stats, they have agendas, they have everything that I need to roll on it. And when I actually do the prep, like I'll have the prep session right here, and all the way at the bottom, this is the actual session notes of the game starting where the players interact with. So way before all that, I actually play all the factions out in this world, and I set the starting stage for everything. And, since this is white hack, I don't have to roll that much. So, but basically, they're rolling to see what they're trying to do against the other factions, succeeds or not. It has great rules for like expediting like conflicts and stuff using it's called an auction. For example, you have the Ecclesial Commission going up against the artisanal faction, which are basically the equivalent of communists. They're fighting in the streets, and I basically have a bidding war and describe what exactly is happening during this. Like, for instance, the League bids 5. You have the leader of the this particular faction rallies against charge against the church, and it's just a conflict. And what ends up happening is right before play starts, basically the artisanal guild gets basically broken up, and they're basically on their knees basically as play starts. I also have another faction right here, the Veil Society. They plant the equivalent of like bombs that will open up a portal to hell, basically, under the noses of every other faction. And I'll have this right here for my tracker update. Gaslight and Code Company basically conspires with the Ecclesial Commission to suppress the United Artisans Reform League. So these three factions, you have two factions getting up on one, and you have one faction that, on their nose of all the other ones, are basically trying to sabotage the Spire project. I know this, the players don't. For this particular game, the players wanted to go full on Space Marines, so they side with the Ecclesial Commission, which is pretty funny. But once all that is all set up, that's when I start writing my notes for the session. And basically start them out at a tavern. I have rolled on some random tables for basically hooks for them to grab on. But all this right here, I didn't make up on my own. I rolled for all this to happen.
Yeah. See, that's actually a good way to handle what I'm talking about, where the mechanics are written to help build the world rather than the world's designed to help build the mechanics. And that's a good thing. That's how it should be. I'll give you a good example myself of a game that I've played a lot where the mechanics really integrate with the world, but you could tell that the mechanics were written with the world in mind, and that's Mage the Ascension. The idea of the tapestry, the idea of the marauders, the idea of abominations, and all the other things that happen in that game, the technocracy and the argument between how magic actually works and everything else, comes directly from the mechanics. But they reflect each other almost perfectly, in that the mechanics for Mage the Ascension ride off of the concepts in the lore versus the lore riding off the mechanics. So, the idea of paradox comes directly from the lore explanation that mages literally rip apart the tapestry of reality, and reality kind of doesn't like that, to be kind of sweet and subtle about it. So it fights back through paradox. And so the paradox mechanic directly comes from that lore concept of reality punching back. And that's what I'm talking about. So like when I'm talking about building a world around the mechanics, there are games that do that, and there's nothing wrong with it, but you can almost universally tell when they've done that, when the lore is written to reflect the mechanics. Mage the Ascension has kind of a little bit of weird history anyways, because it flows out of Ars Magica. It was written after White Wolf lost Ars Magica back in the early 90s. So they took a lot of concepts from Ars Magica and put them into Mage the Ascension. But Mage the Ascension is just a great example of lore versus mechanics, and how that reflects and builds on world building. As far as world building itself goes mechanically, I actually like the way you do it. I do it a lot different. I tend to write the story in my head. I know what needs to happen. I've noticed recently that I'm kind of a rarity in that case. A lot of GMs write out their stuff. I don't really write out my stuff because too much can go wrong. Just to be frank about it.
So there's a way to prevent things from going wrong. I try not to develop plots that focus on a certain thing happening. Basically, I make sure that all the factions involved, what would happen if they succeeded in getting the plot device, the item, or whatever it is. I don't make it one faction's going to win this no matter what, depending on the story. Because you don't know if the player's going to join that faction. You don't know if the players are going to wipe out that faction before that happens, and all kinds of whatnot stuff. I basically try not to make a singular big bad.
Yes. I don't tend to focus on the big bad. Taking an Alternity game, I always knew who the big bad was for this arc, but I left it open-ended enough for you guys to discover it on your own.
One cool thing about Alternity, Dark Matter, which is bi-weekly on this channel, you guys should check it out. It's pretty awesome. It basically White Hack has a similar mechanic for the roll under D20, but it's the opposite for the quality success. So Dark Matter or Alternity in general, you want to roll as low as possible. A 1's a crit, basically. And White Hack, you want to roll as close to your actual stat as possible. So it's in the opposite direction. And an easy way to make things seem more emergent, which basically White Hack usually has the referee do, is the further away from the quality success you're looking for, the player might succeed. For instance, you're running through the streets of a city and you're being chased down in the fog by the city watch. If your quality success, say, like if your agility was like 13 and you crit on it at 13, not only you lose them, like you put enough distance, you could probably just go wandering around. If you roll low, like a 1 or a 2, they basically are not spotted still, but by the skin of their teeth, basically you'll have like some night watch, walk past you. And it just so happens that they happen to not look your direction. You're like, oh crap. Like I just barely got through this. And story wise, even though you succeeded, you barely did. And basically because of that, the referee could add in more city watch that he has to dodge. So quality success could help make the game world more immersive. It doesn't mean it's an automatic fail.
Pendragon does the same thing. So very similar concept in Pendragon. I'll tell you a game system that I absolutely adore. I know it's a divisive system because of the specialty dice, but I absolutely adore Edge of the Empire. The idea of success with failure at the same time is always been a great thing because in that game, your dice help tell the story. So again, emergent storytelling. You're hacking a computer. You roll enough successes to succeed, but you roll threat. Okay, so you hack the computer, but you leave behind traces that you were there. So the Empire now knows that you are messing around in their computers. Or alternatively, you can succeed while rolling a despair. So something really good is happening. So you succeed, but something catastrophic happens. Like, again, using the hacking example, you're hacking, you roll a despair while succeeding. Well, you accidentally just set off the self destruct sequence that you can't turn off because you don't even know how you activated it. Oops. Now you're on a timeline. And that's going to change everything in the game because it's going to change the way adversaries face you. It's going to change the way NPCs react to you. It's going to change the way your characters act. Everything. So for anybody who's ever played specialty dice systems, I know that the Fantasy Flight Star Wars and L5R gets a lot of hate because of the specialty dice, and Genesis to some extent. Guys, I promise you, those are really, really good games. I kind of lament that our Embers of the Imperium game died because that was a really good game.
I do want people to like, because I know a lot of people think solo gaming is a little weird,
Yep,
or hard to grasp, but I recommend people give it a shot because it's great at world building in a way that like Dwarf Fortress has a Legends mode. I'll show this off because I recently been playtesting Barrow Mail from Matthew Tapp.
Yes.
Of which it's an amazing book. It has a really awesome oracle. The art's amazing.
Yep.
Let me go down to the oracle that he has right here. It's like one page. Oh, he also has like things to generate like different heraldry and stuff.
Yeah.
But for this oracle and stuff, I created a character named Toke. He's a Norse guy, physically very weak, but he's really fast, and he just was an idiot and decided to go into a barrow by himself. He ended up getting killed. And another thing about solo gaming and getting to know your NPCs, this actually will end up turning into a villain of sorts if I do decide to run in the same world, just because of what happened to him.
Yes.
But basically, if you keep notes like this, you could go back, add more dialogue to flesh out the character, because as long as you keep time, you're still fleshing out the world.
Yes.
And from this particular playthrough, I continue playing as, like, say, the Goblin faction that got introduced. I could play the king. Might not be a king because the sword has a cold serpent on it, and the blade's made out of Atlantean steel, and it's kind of weird that's in this particular tomb. And I could play out the party that did battle against the white dragon that's rumored to be at Pharaoh Hill. And one thing that is usually missing in these games that I like about, like, say, Dark Souls series in particular is when you go up against like a big white dragon, GMs basically portray the dragon as like not being injured throughout all of time. If you do a solo game playing out the party that basically trapped it, it could be missing its scales, its arms, it might be missing both its eyes. It could be injured, which makes it feel more real because you have other parties trying to take it out beforehand. This character right here basically ended up dying. And here, let me find that part right here. I ended up rolling on the Oracle for giggles because he just died really quick. No contest. The magic sword might be cursed. I might come up with the reason why. Because the sword that was generated is a little weird.
Yep.
But basically, I rolled even doubles, and it's yes, but there's a twist. I rolled a situation roll for transform and a thing roll for cursed. And ended up creating this really cool curse based off of Barrow Mail, where when players PvP against other players' barrows and try to grave rob, if they die there, they turn into a white. So I created a curse that basically, from like Dragon Age, where you get affected by the blight.
Yes.
You slowly turn into a white.
Yeah.
You're alive, and it basically each week you lose half your strength because Toke has a 3 strength. He didn't have much time to live, and later down the road, he basically is escorting a caravan of merchants to hire, soldiers to go delving, try to get rid of this curse. And he ended up dueling this baron because a group of 50 soldiers wouldn't allow the merchants to pass without paying like 500 silver. He ended up dying in the duel unclimactically, but he basically arose again as a third level white, and the whites in this particular game are immune to normal weapons. So he slaughtered many of the soldiers, and the Baron, not the Baron, the captain. Before a bunch of them decide to flee, and now this character, there's rules for leveling up fantastical creatures, so this story's not over. He's basically a white traveling around with a warband of other whites, basically raising villages. And because of let me pull up this sheet. Because of how Barrel Mail allows, it takes away agency from the player, and they will act according to how you stat them out with their humanity, vainglory, kind of like Pendragon and stuff like that. He, in life, his special interest is song. He will murder everyone in the town except for the town bard, or if there's bards there, and he will force them to play songs until their fingers bleed, and they'll leave him as the only survivor to tell tales of his glory or infamy in particular. He's a scary dude now.
Sounds kind of like soft.
And because of that, not only you get to practice playing the game, you get to feel for the character, and you get excited to. So, like, if you decide to run it in the same universe with a bunch of players, I got a big bad guy that's fleshed out right here, and he was just a regular Norse guy to begin with.
Yes,
and you have the entire backstory.
Yes. Okay. Go back there. Okay. Yeah, and that brings up an interesting take on building. Part of world building is building your bad guys. I've done videos in the past, guys. They're privated now, but I have done videos, and I will do them again in the future, talking about how to build a villain that is believable, giving them proper motivations and everything else. Building a villain is not a simple matter of story, because you kind of have to build them mechanically as well. Villains, I'll let the cat out of the bag on you, Atmos, because I think you already kind of figured it out a little bit anyways. Yes, the big bad that you're getting ready to face in Alternity does have FX.
No shit.
Exactly. You already knew that coming.
It.
Yeah, you knew that coming in. I'm just going to let the cat out. She has FX. So she can cast spells. I get to build her. And the best part of Alternity, the FX mechanics for Alternity, is I get to build the spells. There's no preset spells in Alternity. They're completely handcrafted. So I get to set how the spells work, which is just awesome. And so building a good villain is part of the world building. Again, going back to other settings, if you go read about Kalak, the first dragon god in Dark Sun, for example, he is incredibly creepy. He is a huge douchebag as well. Let's not hide the football on that. But Kalak, and then later, the guy that's going to be king in the new book is Tyathian. You got to read the Prison Pen Todd and everything to get more about him, but Tyathian is not much better. Yeah, the building of a villain is vital to world building, because your villains, again, your NPC should feel like they live in, they're part of the world that you're creating, both mechanically and story wise. If you're going to build an artificer in an Eberron game, make him feel like an artificer, make him feel like a dwarf artificer that really lives in Sharn. Don't just say, oh, he's a dwarf artificer. What makes him set him apart from the other dwarf artificers? What sets him apart from the rest of Sharn? why did he choose to live in Sharn? Why did he come there? What does he work on? Does he help repair the Warforged? And all that kind of stuff all has to go into it. And when you start thinking of that, you also have to start thinking of the mechanics of it based on the rule set you're using. So going back to Eberron, which was 3.5 originally. So if you're going to do a 3.5 Eberron game, you have to build that Dwarf Artificer's skill set and ability set around what you're imagining him being able to do. You don't just throw him out there and go, okay, he's an artificer. Yeah, but that doesn't tell me anything about him. That just tells me he knows how to work on mechanical devices and some magic items and things like bombs. But there's more to him if you start building him out and you start saying, okay, so he came to Sharn originally as a slave, or he was captured in war and freed himself, and now he works on the Warforged for one of the Dragonmark houses. And now you have this full character that helps your world feel, again, the term you keep using is the appropriate one. It feels emergent because now you have a character. You don't just have an NPC, you have a character. You have a living, breathing person living in your world.
I have a question for you. Do you build bottom up or top down?
It actually kind of depends on the world I'm playing in. For my World of Darkness, I build bottom up. I build stats, and then I tend to build around them.
Well, let me explain. Like, for instance, Baramel, I was building bottom up. I started with a single town, and I built up from there. Top down is more like you created the kingdoms, the cosmology, the history.
In that case, I am bottom up. I tend to build the areas that you're in first, and then build the world around it.
So, if the world is going to be like, it's going to have like deities and stuff and like a pantheon, one way of doing that is running a test game with players and run through a dungeon. Make it like level 5 or something equivalent to like mid-level. And whatever happens during that particular adventure, just write in later on, like thousands of years, those player characters, no matter if they died or not, they are the pantheon. So you could play out basically historical or like just the written works that people look on for like the deities and how they interacted with each other. So the player characters actually end up playing the deities and flesh them out for you.
Yeah. I'll tell you a game that I had a lot of fun messing with deities in was Scion. I ran a short run Scion game where the players actually they got sent on a mission by Ganesh. And if you read how to run Ganesh is interesting. He's a very interesting deity.
So when it comes to like deities and stuff, I try to you want to run it in such a way that the players don't know that they're actually deities, because
they didn't realize he was Ganesh.
You're on the same plane of existence. You're basically on the same level, and you'll be basically the same as humans amongst their eyes, amongst their peers and stuff like that. And
well, they didn't know they were talking to Ganesh.
For instance, like Galantha and like HeroQuest. All the stories of like Orlan and like all the other those characters are basically just like the equivalent of like Conan type style characters. They're just wild as like deities, and you basically have many different tribes basically trying to recreate different times and different events that happened in between the different deities and stuff. And you can emulate that through just a solo, not either a solo game or one shot with players.
I'll tell you honestly, some games I've played, like I said, Scion's a special exception because you're half bloods, you're half gods or demigods. And anyways, and eventually you will become full-blooded gods on your own. But like each of the individual deity sets tell you that the deities are actually treated a lot different by the people that have worshipped them in the past. So like Indian gods are viewed way different than the Norse gods are. Norse gods, in particular, Norse and Greek gods in particular, are viewed like just super powerful humans that have exceeded human expectation and have gained. They have human motivations. They have human nature. All those things. Whereas like the Persian gods, the Indian gods, the Chinese gods are more like what you think of when you think of the Christian God. They're all powerful. They have divine motivations and things like that because that's how they've always been viewed. And one of the cool things with Scion, when it talks about the gods, is it makes it very clear that how gods are worshipped impacts how they interact with reality, which is kind of cool. I mean, that's a cool thing because the gods they're gods. I mean, let's just be honest. I think the most grounded, down to earth gods are the voodoo gods because of the way they're worshipped. But
I tend to run gods more like eldritch creatures a lot of the times, but in certain games I did create a pantheon very similar to Golgotha and stuff. Even if they're playing a human or an elf and stuff like that, when I write out the actual deity, I don't reference their race in particular. I just describe what happens. Like for instance, you know, the in the Forgotten Realms, you know how like Lavender kind of killed Helm's wife, so they don't get along and stuff like that.
Yes,
you don't have to just. You can describe that kind of stuff happened. You don't have to bring it down into mortal realm because you're just basically using the actual play that your players ran through. And when they find out that like, oh wait, this is based on our characters, I'm like, this is kind of cool. And it feels like they actually added something into the world and stuff like that.
Yes.
You don't necessarily have to run deities. They can run the regular characters, and you just basically incorporate that into basically what you're trying to add into the world.
Yes.
You're taking a lot of liberties.
Yes. Like I said, to me, it kind of deities kind of depend on the game world I'm running. It really does. So it's like you were mentioning Forgotten Realms. Forgotten Realms gods are a lot closer to humanity or demi-humanity than gods in, say, Krynn. Gods in Krynn are like untouchable beings that are completely mysterious. Whereas gods in Forgotten Realms, people regularly have conversations with them, even if they don't realize it.
I have a player. You would probably call him toxic, but we worked this around. He actually likes his character now. He wrote down on his race for his character for this White Hat game, and he wrote down God. So he's like that type of character.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to play a God. And I'm like, I'm not going to let you play a God, but I'll let you play a demigod.
Yeah.
And I told him, I pulled this from a bunch of different inspirations and stuff. But basically, he doesn't know he is mortal. He doesn't know why he's mortal. He knows that he fell from godhood. And the gods are pissed at him for some shape or reason, but they can't physically interact with them. So they have to send agents after him. But he has the ability to basically worship and take all the boons and benefits of every single god at the same time.
Yeah.
So he's basically a god slayer.
Yeah. So and that's an interesting world building mechanic as well. When you're building your world, mechanically, do you have the ability for the gods to mechanically interact with the world itself, or do you mechanically make it to where they're kind of external observers? Again, even within D&D, different settings have different rules for how the gods can interact. On Krynn, they tend not to interact. On Ansalon, they don't interact all that much because, you know, you got to read the history of Krynn. But on, like I said, on Forgotten Realms, on Faerun, they interact a lot. And there's mechanics for interaction between the gods and humanity because of the way the world is built. And again, that's an example of fitting the mechanics to the lore versus the lore to the mechanic. They built mechanics. Planescape's probably the best example of that. There are full rules in Planescape for running into gods on their home plane, which is typically a pretty bad thing. You don't want to piss a god off on his home plane. He has a lot of power. He or she has a lot of power.
I have a talking point we could talk about if you want to.
Go ahead.
So, conflict as an engine. So, like, to solve the this static world and stuff like that. Good settings, in my opinion, have multiple factions with incompatible goals, limited resources, and secrets.
Yes.
Players should be able to pick a side, play both sides, or burn everything down and still have interesting consequences.
Yes. The game that we were talking about this the other day, me and you were talking about this the other day, that does that, I think the best that I've seen recently has been Blades in the Dark. Their faction play is very subtle, but very heavily impactful. Because while you're running around working for one of the factions, there's like 5 other factions, 6 other factions working against you.
Yeah. Or they're all trying to undermine each other.
Yeah. Yes. They're all trying to just get the upper hand. And if you play it right, I mentioned to you, one of the things you could do in Blades in the Dark is you could set up a heist, get there and realize another faction's already heisted what you were planning on stealing.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh God, what do I do?
You can run into situations where you have like one of your contacts, he might not betray the players, but he might get compromised.
Yes.
And you run into weird situations where, like, very similar to Watchmen, where you're going to go meet up with your contact and stuff. He's all tied up and he's already dead. And he'll leave a note warning like, I've been exposed and stuff like that. And they'll basically go on in that particular situation, my players basically love that NPC and they basically torched half the city down.
Yeah.
Getting revenge. Right. But I'm glad you gave Blades in the Dark a chance.
Yes. Once I started reading it, and I'm not a big Powered by the Apocalypse fan, but I think there's enough changes in that game that I can look past it being Powered by the Apocalypse at its base. I'm not a big PBTA fan, but Blades in the Dark definitely has some very unique and interesting mechanics. Particularly its stealth mechanic, its clock stealth mechanic is amazing.
I utilize that in all my games.
Yeah, it's very, very good. If you've never read Blades in the Dark, absolutely should read it. It will enlighten you to a couple of things about the clock mechanic that a lot of people have pissed all over the clock mechanic over the years because it seems kind of weird. But Blades in the Dark really does a great job using it. It really does.
The clock mechanic, it's not new, but it's like the first time that, like, at least in a game, that utilizes it for pretty much everything about play. And I've been incorporating that in basically all my solo games. I'll have these little clocks for torch timers, which it's the same thing as a D6. You don't actually have to have a physical clock. You just use dice as a little timer. Yeah. And the cool thing about it is it makes stealth more of it's an escalation mechanic. You don't just turn invisible when you roll a dice. Oh, I'm hiding in shadows. You can't see me. No, like as you're going through making decisions and doing things that will basically expose you, you have an escalation mechanic. And as it goes past a certain escalation point, there's no turning back. There's more guards present. They might know that something's wrong. They may not know that you're there. And once they end up seeing a knocked out body during like a heist situation, it'll jump 2 or 3 escalation levels.
Yes.
And you're basically going to be a smash and grab running for your life at that point. And that is missing from like OSR games.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I'll tell you something that I've been reading recently that I'm actually kind of in love with is the challenge mechanic from Open Adventure. It's a little weird when you first read it because it uses a difficulty system and then a challenge point system as well, which is similar to the victory point system from Fading Suns, if you've ever played that. But what you do is you roll, and the more you beat the difficulty by, the more effect you have on the challenge. So if something is got 10 challenge points and you beat it by 5, you eliminate 5 challenge points. And you only succeed on the challenge once you've defeated all the challenge points. And there's different traits you can give the challenges. Like you can give a challenge one shot. So like, for example, you could set a lock at challenge points 5, which means that the person picking lock has to beat the difficulty by 5 or more, or he can't pick the lock.
Yeah.
And one of the, you were talking about escalation mechanics. It has a challenge trait called escalating, which adds challenge points at the end of the round if you don't overcome the challenge. So like you can use escalating challenge to represent like regeneration on a monster. So like a great big huge ancient dragon could have escalating 5, which represents that he recovers 5 challenge points to represent that he's regenerating as you're trying to kill him. It's a really neat escalation mechanic and a really neat mechanic, and it's really clean because the game is cinematic, not simulationist, which is a big change for me because I run a lot of simulationist games. But the simulation, the cinematic aspect of it is really cool because it allows you to do things in a way that is not always resolved by one roll. For example, you're trying to barricade a gate so a bunch of people can't break through it. You don't only, okay, so I roll, do I do it? No. Do I do it the first time? No. Okay, so that's 1 hour you wasted trying to get this gate barricaded. You can try, you have 4 hours and you can utilize clocks to do this. So you have 4 ticks before they get here. So you get 4 tries to get the challenge completed, which would be called a time challenge, yada, yada, as far as the mechanics are concerned. So very, very different, mechanically very different. And again, mechanically helps you build the world because Open Adventure is CCY0, they don't have a lot of pre-created stuff for it yet. It really opens the door for you as what they call the guide, but we'll call them DM, GM, referee, whatever term you want to use, to really develop the world through the use of the challenge system. Because you can do a lot of it on the fly. It doesn't require a lot of pre-building at all, which I find that very nice. On the other end, it does. We've talked of this is another let's sidetrack into this a little bit. The idea of world building being more of a GM issue than a player issue. Players should not be responsible for building the world. They certainly can impact it. They can certainly make changes to it, things like that. But the world itself should have some level of pre-establishment from the storyteller, whatever you want to call them, before a player ever sits down. There should be enough there that the players are capable of adding to it or subtracting from it if they need to, which is where you get into meta currencies and things like that. But you can get a meta currency and stuff like that when you're talking about that. But that to me is important as well, because if you've got a game, both of us, I think, kind of agree, the game should not put too much weight on the player.
It depends on the system.
Yeah, it does. But for the most part, I think both of us play a lot of systems that tend, not always, but tend to lean more towards GM control versus player control.
Yeah, rulings based.
Yeah, rulings based versus hard rolls that define things. I'm sorry, I'm getting climbed on.
In general,
hey, Colby.
One thing that people make a mistake is they believe like rules-light systems are like really easy.
Yep.
It's not for the GM because you got to remain consistent because of you're going to be making a lot of rulings, and you don't want to be arbitrary and basically make players think you're just being arbitrary, and you're just do not be arbitrary when you're playing a rules-like game. You want to remain consistent.
Yes.
On my end in particular, since a lot of my stuff can't be done on the fly, I will literally play. I will solo game the game that I'm going to be running for like a good 2 hours before the game starts to flesh out everything but like the character names.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll even roll for the next 10 encounter checks beforehand, and the dice that actually roll it on the fly are the character names, because I'll have Baron 2 down on my list, and the actual dice I'm rolling is going to be the name of that particular character. So I like surprising myself because I want to play the game with the players. But a lot of these stuff that I prep beforehand,
Mhm.
I prep a lot of stuff beforehand, especially
Yeah.
with like
Yeah.
if I'm
There-
running something like White Hack.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Pre-prep is this is a little bit of a bugbear with me. Um, a lot of guys that want to get into GMing, their first time they ever do it, I think a lot of people have walked into it assuming, not everybody, but a lot, walk in assuming that GMing is easy. And there's a lot of things that go on prior to a session that nobody talks about. Especially in a world building sense, but just as a general rule, I mean, you have to gather players, you have to set the, you have to set the expectations, you have to set the world, you have to set the NPCs, you have to set the encounters, you have to do a bunch of work to GM. And a lot of people get into GMing and they suddenly realize, oh my God, this is a lot of work. Yeah, it is. I mean, be prepared to spend on a really good game. You can spend anywhere from a couple hours to 10 plus hours a week prepping the game, just kind of depending on the game you're playing. Because some games, like when you're developing NPCs mechanically, require more work than others and things like that. Can I help you?
Yeah, I would highly recommend for people to try rolling, especially if you're playing like an OSR style type game, rolling for encounters beforehand, like a good 10 of them. You don't have to roll like the creatures that they come across or the events.
Yep.
Just roll whenever
they're going to have one.
You encounter some kind of encounter.
Yes.
Having that out of the way will basically make things a lot easier on you.
Yes, it'll make your world building a lot simpler. It really will, because your game is your time at the table should be spent resolving the challenges in front of you and the encounters in front of you, rather than referencing books and tables and all the other crap. I'm sorry, I'm getting stepped up by a 110-pound dog right now. He likes to step on my testicles. But yeah, so if you're not careful, you can find yourself in a situation. So just a side note, guys, if you are a first-time GM and you're looking to GM, I know a lot of people watch this channel GM a lot, but if you are a first-time GM looking to GM, guys, seriously talk to other GMs about time commitments and stuff, and be prepared for time commitment. GMing is work. It is a job, unfortunately. I apologize, guys, that the big moose keeps getting his head in the way. He wants something. I don't know what he wants right now, but he wants something. He's being a Velcro dog right now, which is odd for him, actually. He normally just lays down behind me. But all that being said, GMing, like I said, GMing is work. Just keep that in mind if you're a new GM. I can't reiterate that enough. As far as world building goes, though, there's so much to it, mechanically and story wise. There's so much to world building that gets overlooked. Another thing gets overlooked in world building, outside of like having to flesh out characters and stuff, and even in factions. I'm gonna point something out, and I'd love to hear how you feel about it. Internal politics of a game are actually kind of important. And by that, I mean, if you're going to have a world that has like a hierarchy or a caste system or anything like that, you really need to define that, both mechanically through the faction rules, through a faction rules system, and then also from a story perspective, because again, you need you use the term, and I think that's a huge term for world building, is consistency. If you have a caste system, you need consistency in your caste system. You can't have your caste system being fluctuating all the time. Even in a game like, I'm going to use Scion again as an example, there is a structured hierarchy to how reality works around demigods. because they're demigods, because they start out as heroes, become demigods, and then eventually gods. There is an actual structure to how that works, and it's very consistent in the rules. Exalted's in the same boat. There's actually a hierarchy among Exalted. Stupidly enough, the most powerful Exalted is not the one you play. Typically, you play a Solar Exalted, which falls kind of in the middle. Abyssals are definitely more powerful, for example. So consistency, I think that's a big term that we could kind of stick on. Being consistent in general is important at everything you do. Mechanics, story, gameplay, everything you do. Consistency.
I actually don't get in too deep with faction politics and stuff.
Mm.
Do you know what I do that I like doing for factions?
Mm-hmm.
So, say like I have a thieves guild that I want to introduce.
Mm.
I'll actually use the macro stat block of the thief player and not tell them, but I'll tell them to roll for me, but they don't know what they're rolling for. So like a lot of the factions, they're basically going to be rolling a contested stuff with their stats and stuff like that. Or it could be like a dead player PC. I'll take that stat block and use it for another faction, maybe a henchman. And I'll just use those numbers and I'll have a player roll it for me. And whenever you have a character that has a particular miracle ability that allows them to, see this interwoven like politics and stuff, maybe they have like psychic powers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I could open up like it's using the stat block from Jim over there and stuff like that. I'm like, oh crap, was it like that the entire time?
Yep. Exactly, but it goes back to what I was saying. If you're going to use factions, they have to stay consistent. They can't be the way you treat them cannot be inconsistent.
It doesn't have to be complicated, but it needs to be consistent.
And that's kind of what I was getting at. It's like however you build it, it has to stay consistent. That's a word that I think comes up repetitively among GMs is consistency. Like a good example of that is if you're going to run a low fantasy game, you can't suddenly turn it into a Monty Hall game because that would destroy the idea of being low fantasy.
Yes.
So consistency has to stay the same. So if you're giving out very few magic items, you can't suddenly give out like a huge haul of magical items. Otherwise, you just kind of destroy it, which that gets into something I talked about in a previous video. Setting your expectations as a GM is important too, especially in world building, because when you're building a world, you're building a setting, you're building a campaign, you need to set the expectation for what that world is for your players. Again, I'm just going to use a real world example. If you're running Dark Sun 2nd edition, genocide, forced breeding, slavery, gladiatorial combat, defilers and preservers, all that stuff is baked into the pie. Hey, Jojo, come here, buddy. Come here. Sorry. I didn't mean in my face.
For setting non-specific, I want to reiterate, there's no wrong way of doing it. And if you have a simple way of like game mechanically to do it, it's not bad that it's simple. Because the players don't know what you're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely.
For all they know, it could be the most complicated thing ever because they'll think that you're keeping track of all these different things, like the economy for the game world to like the size of ships and stuff.
Yeah.
But if you have a really simple resolution mechanic, you could keep it hidden and you could trick the players into thinking it's a lot more than this. You don't have to... It doesn't have to be complex. You can have complex stuff in it, but you can resolve everything simply.
Yes. And again, that goes into setting expectations. When you're setting expectations, you don't need complexity. You need consistency.
Yeah.
When you set your expectations, be consistent with your expectations. And on the player end of that, for the record, is if a player has an expectation that's unmet, be consistent in accepting or denying expectations. So, like if a player comes to you and says, well, I thought this game was going to be X, Y, or Z, and you have a good reason for it not to be that, be consistent in your explanation for why it's not. Because sometimes we'll use real world examples. Some of the conversations we've had, you've brought some things up to my attention about Alternity that I've told you in the past I fully intend to implement because they're legitimate expectations.
Like something that you should introduce in Alternity is if the further away, like even though a player succeeds on the roll, add in a complication that doesn't make it make them fail outright. Like if we're trying to sneak through a building and there are like guards and stuff like that, and we roll a little bit too high, we have like an ordinary success.
Yeah, you may
have the guards change
Yeah.
positions on the map.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, again, that's asking for an expectation that's realistic and shouldn't probably be turned down. Even though you set expectations, you shouldn't be so closed-minded about it that you refuse to change your world. Because sometimes changing your world makes the experience better for everybody, including yourself. I mean, that's a realistic part of world building. Is, you know, you're not, whether, you know, you said it earlier, you're playing a game. The problem that a lot of people take when they set expectations and they won't change them is they're trying to tell a story. Well, if you want to tell a story, go write a novel. That's what that medium is for.
I have a controversial question because I know there's a bunch of people that would totally disagree with this. But how much world building should players be allowed or encouraged to do?
So the minimalistic for me is they should be allowed to build anything around their character that makes sense and minimalistically change the meta world. So let me kind of explain where I'm going with that. So if a player wants to add an NPC because they were raised in an orphanage, for example, and one of their friends joined the City Watch, A-okay. We'll work on that. We'll find a way to make that work in. But from the meta perspective, they shouldn't be allowed to be like, well, that guy shouldn't be king. Why not? It's my world, dude.
That's a little extreme.
That's what I'm saying. That's a little extreme. That's why even in systems with meta currencies like Conan or Fabula Ultima or even Open Adventure that has story points, when you use them to change the world, you can't change the world vastly. You can only change the world in kind of minor ways. So, for example, a story point in Open Adventure, you could add cover to a scene. You could have the riverbed suddenly be dry in the part of the river you're at. But you couldn't. Good.
I was a player in this Fabula Ultima campaign, and they used a story point to crack open the moon. I forgot what exactly happened, but it was not good.
Yeah,
that player screwed things up.
To me, I wouldn't let them do that because that's like a world-changing event. That should be done through role play and mechanical play, not meta currency.
No, well, here's the thing. Venger has these cards that they're kind of like X cards, but they're like funny cards that you basically throw on the table, and the GM, aka Venger, will have to incorporate that into what he was describing or doing at the time.
Yeah,
that's a fun way to make a game funny, especially if you have a bunch of like central cards when he's trying to describe a box.
Yes,
Venger will go a little bit crazy with that stuff.
All of a sudden, there's a woman in it for no reason. You're like, what?
Yeah. So you can have fun with it. It depends on the game. White Hat in particular, you could. I found that if you run the same exact setting, the same module, the same campaign setting with two different groups, the magic system is completely different for each group because the players dictate how magic functions. If you want to be, if one group wants to use more reagents to reduce the cost of their spells and stuff like that, it'll function a lot more differently than another group who basically plays it like an anime.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of world building. It's like every time I could run the same adventure I'm running for you guys in Alternity for a different group, and I'm going to get a totally different world. Even though the meta part of the world is going to stay the same because I'm going to have the same story, how they interact with it, what they do with it, how they approach it, what they take out of the world. You guys have grabbed books. You guys have copied data disks. You've done all kinds of things that other groups may not do. So, Joey, honey, I love you, but you can't be on the cord. Joey wants to lay with me right now. He's wanting some cuddles.
I have some questions for you.
Go for it.
How do you recover when the players go somewhere you have absolutely nothing prepared for?
You guys did that to me. I was not prepared for you to go to Oklahoma City, but I quickly came up with the idea of putting that office building in like the shady part of town. And I knew I was okay. So I'm going to tell you now, I knew I was going to kill off Ralston. I knew he was going to die because he was a red herring.
Yep.
I think you figured that out by now. He was a red herring. I knew he needed to die, and you gave me a perfect opportunity to develop something on the fly that got me to kill him off and gave you a new lead. So I'm generally okay with improvisation. Sometimes I struggle with it. For the most part, though, I can roll with a punch pretty easy. Especially in a real world game. Like Alternity. Because like, okay, we're going to Oklahoma City. Okay, you go to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is a huge city. So it's easy to be like, okay, you guys go to the shadiest part of town. You know, I don't have to come up with the whole town because it already exists. Right?
Another question. When has over prepping a location or faction actually made the game worse?
I don't have a ton of those because I don't typically over prep. I think that the worst one that I've had happen, actually, ironically, was our Dragon Age game because I was using a pre-made adventure, and you guys kept passing out trying to outdrink that chick. And that caused me a little bit of headaches.
Okay. This might be an interesting one. Oh, wait. No, you're gone. Okay. Well, guys, it seems we lost the legacy. He should be back soon. And in the meantime, I will... What should I do? Oh,
sorry about that. The dog just logged me out somehow.
I was about to advertise Barrow Mail right here, but I'm glad you're back.
Go ahead. No, the dog logged me out completely out of Restream.
You need to get that door.
I got to put it back up. You can see the open door behind me. The other door is my closet.
So I have another question for you. What's the most elaborate piece of world building you ever done that never saw the table?
It did see the table, but very shortly. I built an entire world around a temple, around a tower. I still have the notes in my Roll20, actually, in one of my Roll20s, that its entire world is built on the 7 deadly sins and the 7 virtues as gods that are actually... they're actually controlled by a central god called Destiny, the Latin word for destiny. And it's rolled by multiple kings, and each of the kings are selected from a priesthood. The priesthood for each individual sin or vice or virtue has to show extreme deference to that virtue or vice. And the people in the city, the way that they worship is that they try to bring balance to their life by balancing the virtues and the vices. It's actually a pretty unique little world.
Nice.
And the adventure I started, it was actually a Rollmaster game. The adventure took them into the tower because the gods started going crazy. and they
That's
had to stop
interesting.
the gods. Yeah, it's pretty, and no AI used. I did it all by hand. So
Now, here's another question. I don't know if you ran into this. How do you handle a player? This is like one of the issues when it comes to building a bottom up, which is a lot of OSR games are designed around. How do you handle a player that wants deep lore when you deliberately built this setting bottom up and pretty light on the history?
I try to be honest. If you ask me something that I haven't thought of before, I'll tell you I haven't thought about it. But I try.
That's a good way. That's a good way to run it. Yeah.
Yeah, I try to, and the other part of being honest is I'll tell them the truth. Really, the only part I've really developed is the part you're in now. So, like I said, if I'm building a city, like a specific city that you play in, and I've only developed the slums, and you want to know about the rich part of town, I'll tell you the truth. I don't have it developed. I really only worked on the slums because that's where I envision this adventure taking place. And it will tend to drive me into starting to build the other part of town that people are asking about, but I try to avoid it unless I really need it, because it's just so, world building to me is a step-by-step process. I've learned my lesson about trying to build whole worlds at once. I'm not good at that, but I can develop small areas at any given time. I can develop like a whole village very easily, but God help me if you want me to develop 7 kingdoms at once. It ain't gonna happen.
Let's see. Going through my notes.
Oh, you're good.
What is the hardest part of maintaining continuity across a very long campaign?
The two that I think I would point out is consistency in the world, where it's very easy to forget like minor details or very far back details. So like say you're 30 or 40 sessions in and somebody asks about something that happened in session 2. It's very hard sometimes to remember exactly what happened in session 2. So that's the big one. But the second one I think would probably be internal consistency within how the world itself works. You gather all this information together, and unfortunately, the best of us will create inconsistencies or contradictory information across multiple stories.
Nice. You mentioned before, like, dropping a bunch of...
Don't die on me now. You're not allowed to die on me.
Dropping a bunch of like magical items in a like low fantasy environment cause problems within the game world. What detail about like resource scarcity or abundance have completely changed how your players behaved?
Yeah. I actually lost a Curse of Strahd game because the players got mad because it wasn't Monty Hall, actually. Because I don't like Monty Hall games. I think they're boring. There's no problem solving involved if you have magical equipment that just does it for you. And scarcity. So I'm a middle of the road guy when it comes to games with a lot of magic item like rules. Scarcity is kind of boring too, because then you get a lot of infighting over who gets what piece of equipment.
Well, scarcity doesn't have to be like a magical equipment. Like I've seen some games where like you cannot sell magical items, but you can trade it with brokers for other magic items.
Yeah.
So like in games where coin is XP, you're going to want more of the mundane items. In my white games, spellcasting, scarcity or abundance of like reagents will completely change the way how spells get played out.
Yeah,
and it could be either very minor
to
something that you would see out of DB.
Yeah, like I said, it just kind of comes down to when I think of magic item scarcity. I'm thinking of like some of the old school darker fantasy games that people have run that I've seen that they're like, oh, you get like one magic item per every 3 player characters, and you're like, and you'll do that like once every 2 sessions, and so like, okay, so you have 2 fighters in the group, and you find 1+1 sword over 6 or 7 sessions. Um, who gets it? Who gets it first? You're going to start internal politics at your table, and I'm not talking like left versus right politics. I'm talking about like game politics at your table over fighting over who deserves what piece of equipment. And I'm like, I don't like that. I tried to give out enough magic items to where everybody can at least have one and it can be useful to them, but I don't want to give out where everybody has 2 rings, a magic sword, magical armor, and amulet. I'm like, okay, so what's the point in me challenging you here? Because you're just going to get through it.
So in my games specifically, I do not create magic items that basically give you a +1 or +2 attack to damage. For multiple reasons. Like a magic sword was probably created a long time ago. It probably won't cut the same way as like a really specialized like steel that was basically improved upon over time. They usually have utilitarian like abilities that transcend it than just being a weapon. Like one my player's favorite magic item they have is a little light bulb on a little block that within 10 feet it lights up if there's a secret door.
Very nice.
Or a secret room near.
I'll tell you the game that has the best magic item rolls I've seen for weapons is Dragon Warriors. So you can get +1, +2, whatever items that add to your attack score and all that. But you can also get like a sword that has no magical bonus, but increases its die type for armor bypass. So instead of D6, you roll a D8.
I don't believe in magic weapons just being just better at combat. I tend to not actually give like an attack bonus to magic.
Well, that's the other cool thing with Dragon Warriors is a lot of magical items don't actually have +1, +2. A lot of them do specific stuff, like they're like Vorpal, or they may be Vorpal, or they may allow you to cast a spell or whatever.
I can understand getting past like resistances, but it should make you fight better.
No. Armor bypass doesn't make you fight better. Armor bypass just means that you're more likely to do damage. When
having a sword that has ESP and a lot of other utility type things will give fighters more utility and stuff, and that's what I generally do with magic items.
Yeah,
it's the reason why I don't like 5th edition or 3rd edition, just because a lot of the magic items are more combat specific. I like more exploration style abilities.
Second edition get a lot of +1, +2 magic items, but once you hit +3, generally speaking, +3 magic items also carried additional bonuses. Like they would have ESP, or they were intelligent weapons, or whatever. Because once you hit +3 in 2nd edition, you're typically, I think +3 weapons are designed to be used by people of like 9th level or above. So you're actually mid-level by the time you're getting them. And so, like I said, Dragon Warriors magic items are very unique. Like I said, because they do have the traditional +1, +2, but you could also find a sword that, for example, basically is basically Orcbane from Lord of the Rings. It glows in the presence of orcs, or sings when a dragon is near. So it encourages your magic items to be very, and because magic items in Dragon Warriors are super rare, to put this in perspective, a magic suit of armor takes about 900 days to craft. That's what, 3 years, give or take. So a magic set of armor should be rare, should be useful, and should not just be static. Oh, it's a +1 armor. Oh, it gives you +1 armor factor. Ooh, Somebody spent 900 days giving it +1 armor factor. Nah, I don't buy that.
I actually don't think I ever created a magic set of armor in any of my games.
No, I don't know. Maybe
I'll be
people do.
honest.
I don't know.
So,
many
like,
people do.
White Hack has this light eater, which is a cricket construct that can eat light in a 20-foot radius and then spew it out.
Nice.
Like, cool stuff like that is cool.
Yes, and that's what I like. Like I said, that's why I like Dragon Warriors, because it tells you pretty much. Palladium Fantasy does the same thing. Magic items in Dragon Warriors should not be common, and when they are found, they should have some practical utility outside of just stabbing things, or shooting things. They should have practical application. Like I said, if you find a set of armor in a barrow, say you go into a barrow in Dragon Warriors, you find a set of magic armor, that magic armor is not just going to be a +2 magic armor, because each piece of magic gear in Dragon Warriors is specifically crafted for the person that purchased it. And they're not just going to purchase +2 armor. They're going to purchase +2 armor with some enhancement. They want it to do something special. You know, you can get, oh, look, I get a shield that increases my block from a 1 in 6 to a 2 in 6. Okay, that's cool. But because it's specifically crafted and it's made specifically for you to do that, what else is it doing? And the cool thing with Dragon Warriors is it encourages the GM to not really tell the player what the magic item can do. Not even the +1, +2 part until they like test it. So like I was mentioning, you could basically build Orcbane from Lord of the Rings, right? Okay, so you get a short sword, a +1 short sword that glows in the presence of orcs. You start swinging it around. Oh, look, it does +1 to hit. Okay, you notice that pretty quickly because mechanically you notice it. But then all of a sudden you walk into a cave that's full of orcs and it's glowing. What the hell is going on? Now you know what it does. Again, I really like games where magic items are designed to be very specific because they're crafted specifically for specific people, versus games where crafting parts of games where magic items are just kind of there. Like when you're on a Monty Hall 5th edition game, for example, like every chest you kick open has like a +1 dagger in it. And you're just like, I have 5 of these. Versus,
you know what?
Like I said, like Dragon Warriors Palladium. So,
you know what would be a really funny cursed item to give someone? A cursed tome of history. It gives historical expertise, which you cannot stop talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you one of the best magical items ever put into literature, and I would love to put this onto like a wizard or a sorcerer. Comes out of Harry Potter of all places. He mentions a book that a guy picks up that never lets you stop reading.
Yep.
Like that'd be a perfect cursed item for a wizard who all he wants to do is get magic items. Okay, you find a book. I'm going to start reading it. Okay. The next combat. Well, I'm going to cast a spell. Okay, well, you're going to take a penalty because you're distracted. Why? Because you can't stop reading your book. What? You can't stop reading. You can't pull your eyes away from the page. You take penalties out the ass. And now you got to figure out how to break the curse. Yeah, cursed items are wonderful. Like they kind of did away with them in 3.0. They kind of exist, but they're not as prevalent. Second edition was like every now and again, throw a cursed item in there. Give them a cursed item.
Cursed items doesn't always have to be completely bad.
No, it doesn't. But they're like Gygax was all for it, and second edition authors were all for, hey, throw a cursed item at them.
Like dragon armor in White Hack, it's extremely good because you get a defensive score of 8, which is ridiculous. That's like plate mail or higher, but you got to save and stop for close examination when you see gold.
Nice, very nice.
So if you see gold, you got to stop and smell the flowers
because you're wanting to hoard. Yeah, I agree. I think cursed items are wonderful. I think they're a great way to they're a great way to curtail Monty Hall parties.
Yeah,
are parties who just want to take everything they see. Be careful what you take. Be very careful what you take.
One of my favorite ones is Regenerative Bandage. It's a cursed item that returns HP at twice the natural rate. Lost limbs will grow back and keep on growing.
I'll tell you one of my favorite cursed items that I've ever seen. There's a cursed belt of Hill Giant Strength that also carries the curse of femininity, masculinity. So yeah, you get Hill Giant Strength, but you suddenly grow boobs.
Oh dear.
If you're a man. If you're a woman, you turn into a man. So, and it's cursed and it can't be taken off.
Yeah.
So like, oh, I have Hill Giant Strength. I really don't like being a woman. Can I go back to being a man now? No. You got to get the curse off the belt. Actually, stupidly enough, it used to be in the lore for Elminster. It's not anymore. They've since written it out. He had a curse belt of femininity, masculinity. Mystra gave it to him.
Back on.
He got that out of hell, actually. Funny story.
Back on the world building aspect.
Yeah.
How much of the original vision you're willing to abandon as the campaign develops?
I'll bend again. It's kind of a complex answer. I'll bend when it comes to allowing you to resolve the problem, but I won't bend the end game. The end of the story, because I tend to work backwards. So I figure out what I want the end to look like in some capacity. And then I tend to build everything towards that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be like, this person's the BBEG. This is their abilities. This is what they're capable of doing. And then I'm going to say, okay, how do you get there? And that's why I'm going to have a lot of flexibility in between, because again, no two parties are going to approach an end game the same exact way. Even if I put you in a cave, even if I put you in a cave system, two parties are going to approach the cave system totally different than each other. And you could see that. I'll give you the best example of how that plays out is run two parties through Keep on the Borderlands. The way that people handle Keep on the Borderlands, party-wise, is vastly different from each other. Which is why it's still considered one of the best adventures ever written for D&D.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you have to have some flexibility in the middle ground. You have to have flexibility when it comes to how people resolve things. If you mentioned it earlier, being on rails, if you don't have any flexibility in allowing the players to approach the problem, then you're really just telling a story and you're railroading your players.
Yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of railroading. And basically, it's understandable if it's like a drop-in game and you don't have anything, but you, like, for instance, if you want it based off of a TV show, you could set time aside, a little bit of time aside to at least change the names of the characters and just, based loosely, just don't follow the entire plot of it.
Yeah.
Because the TV shows are different from games.
Yeah. Again, if all you want to do is tell a story, write a screenplay, write a novel. You're here to play a game, and games are going to have so a couple of things about world that tie into world building that people have to understand. You're playing a game. It is a dice game. It is random, which means that things that should succeed will fail and things that should fail will succeed at any given time. And the third is expect the unexpected, because your players are going to come up with some wild ideas. I had a group of players kill a wizard by sealing goblin skulls, filling it with lantern oil, and throwing them at them. Didn't see that one coming. They kept beheading and skinning the goblins. I'm like, what the heck are they doing? They get to the BBEG. They're like, okay, we're going to fill these. We have like 5 gallons of freaking lantern oil between us. We're going to fill these goblin skulls and throw them at them. I'm like, okay, works.
How has your world building process changed as you've run more games?
I would say I've
Different
become a
games.
lot. Yeah, I think I've become a lot more flexible. In that I've learned to adjust to the setting I'm in a lot better. Um, I don't tend to run sci-fi the same way I run fantasy, and at the same time, I don't run horror the same way as I run sci-fi. They're vastly different uh, baselines, and therefore my world building is totally different when I run a game of Call of Cthulhu than if I run Alternity than if I run D&D. So it's really just it's about flexibility. It's about being able to start from a better starting point, um, and develop a better. Uh, Basically, I've learned to build a better living world based on that baseline. Um, because of that, and I do especially well in IPs I'm very familiar with as well. So like I'm really good at running L5R because I really understand the world. I've played a lot in it. Star Wars, I'm a Star Wars nut. That big wooden bookshelf behind me is 6 feet of Star Wars books.
Yeah. There's going to be a question.
So
I'll answer the question first, but what kinds of constraints, like technological level, magical rarity, cultural isolation, have produced the most interesting worlds for you? For my players, um, a lot of them have gotten into Daggerheart, so they really like the Gaslight Fantasy, which is basically a Victorian setting, but instead of steampunk, there's a lot of magic instead. And I've been generating a lot of worlds building through that particular like tech level, and it's pretty cool. It's fun.
Yeah.
I usually run a different system than Daggerheart though, but it's not hard to.
Yeah.
You don't have to play Daggerheart to play Gaslight Fantasy. I don't want people to think like it's
Unhallowed Metropolis. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. And it's vastly different from like steampunk because technology takes the center fold for, even though it might take place in a Victorian setting, there's hardly any magic in a steampunk setting, and you could actually play it more like a sci-fi game. But I've been having a lot of fun with Gaslight Fantasy. But for you, what kind of constraints have produced the most interesting for you?
So, ironically enough, time travel. So I ran a Mage the Ascension game. It lasted about 8 months, and they wound up getting sucked through a time portal to the 1970s. A bunch of 2010 wizards stuck in the 1970s. So you're talking no cell phones, no laptops, no tablets, none of the modern amenities available. There's no internet. And they have to solve what caused them to go back in time in order to reopen the portal and get back. And they discovered a demon in the process, by the way, which led to my favorite line I've ever had happen in an RPG session. The guy that gets possessed by a demon is a porn shop owner. And somebody walks up behind him with a dildo. And the line comes out that I never thought I would hear in an RPG. So I sap him with the dildo.
Oh my God.
Yeah, definitely not prepared for that. But they wound up doing some really fun things in the past. Like they bought a bunch of Apple stock right as Apple went IPO. We kind of fudged the timeline a little bit, but we let them buy Apple IPO stock. So they get back to the 2010s with like enough Apple stock that they actually created their own Elysium. They bought a nightclub, fixed it up, and had it declared an Elysium.
So, like, this question's because of Dark Matter in Alternity in particular.
Yep.
Because I end up reading through the book because I really like the setting.
Yep.
How do you decide what information about the world is player facing, kept strictly GM only, and how much should players be allowed to know about the true history or cosmology versus the in-world propaganda versions?
Okay, so with Dark Matter, So Dark Matter in mind, particular, you could say the same thing about Dark Conspiracy, somewhat Call of Cthulhu. It should be slowly revealed. None of it should ever be completely off limits. because as you guys go through different story arcs, different things are going to be revealed to you. So in this case, for the one with the source, you guys are now aware that there's some kind of evil being floating around the internet in some capacity. I think you guys have puzzled that part out at least. I'm not going to tell you the whole thing because I don't want to run the end of the story arc.
Yeah.
But you're now pretty sure that there's been a demon using the internet to influence people. I think you guys figured that part out.
I've even uncovered more stuff even further from that.
Yep.
I will have a solo game eventually for Alternity.
No,
using white hack rules to make it functional because they're very similar dice mechanics.
Yeah,
but I need a simpler system to run it.
Mm-hmm.
Will we get into a situation where we have to put down other agents? Because I know things about the Hoffman Institute that my character doesn't.
I have not gotten to that point yet because I'm only one story arc ahead of myself. But this next story arc will definitely intrigue you guys.
Yeah, because I got as I was getting into Alternity, I was also getting into Crisis Averted, Presence Saved. Both games have conspiracies on the forefront, as well as the Majestic 13. And as I was going through, I actually incorporated parts of Dark Matter into some of the games I ran using caps, and it's pretty wild. And
absolutely, it's.
I think I kind of ruined it for myself just because of the fact that, like, now I don't trust the Hoffman Institute.
Yeah, well, and since you kind of already read the book, I can say this. I don't care if Mar and Atomic and everyone hear this. The Hoffman Institute really aren't the good guys.
Of course not.
I'm just gonna say it. They pretend.
That's why I was acting. You probably thought I was acting irrational, but you have to understand the private investigator persona that I have, as well as the personas that all the other members of the team are. We're specialists working for the Hoffman Institute. That's our cover.
Yeah.
So, like, and in caps, like Crisis Averted, it's the same situation. And a lot of the situations when I was running those Metal Gear Solid style type games, they were putting down and quieting like a politicians, journalists getting too close to the information, just to keep the world from ending.
It's like I said. Anytime you run a conspiracy game, the idea behind conspiracy games, good conspiracy games, even Call of Cthulhu, which isn't necessarily a conspiracy game, but it's about uncovering the unknowable. If you hide information permanently from the players, it's going to leave a gap that they need later on. So just using an example of a faction inside of Dark Matter, if you're going against the Greys, and this is the first time as an agent you've ever experienced the Greys, you're going to uncover a lot of information about how much the Hoffman Institute actually knows, how much the U.S. government actually knows about them, how much other cryptids know about them. You're going to probably find out about other cryptids even through your investigation into the Greys. And if I try to cover any of that up, it's going to leave a chunk out of your investigation into the Greys. You have to uncover it on your own.
And I know why it's going to be hard to pull information on the Greys too. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Dr. Nakami. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, but the idea, I mean, they're just an example. I mean, I could sub any group into there, the Final Church or any other group into there.
It's the reason why I really like the setting. I think my character will be suspicious of it, but he's going to be acting according because of that.
Yeah.
So in game, if you think he's acting a little erratically, he's going to feel like he's doing his job.
Oh, I fully expect you to go full on like paranoid schizo in this next next arc.
Yes. I'm really it's I really like the universe. I can't believe it's slept on. because the only modern variant is the D20 version of Dark Matter.
Yeah, it's the world though is wonderful. Joey, get down. Sorry, he keeps trying to climb on me. But yeah, so you got to be prepared for that, and yeah, it's hiding information is a terrible world building ploy. Information should be hidden until it's viable. Absolutely, especially in investigative games. But if you're hiding it permanently, then you're kind of kneecapping your players. And I'll give you honestly, I tell you the two adventures that I think handle that the best in the world. And I might get some blowback on the latter, but I don't care. It's going to be Shadows of Yog-Sothoth for Call of Cthulhu. Oh my God! If you want to see how an investigation leads to uncovering deeper and deeper mysteries, read Shadows of Yog-Sothoth. And then Mask of Nyarlathotep. Mask of Nyarlathotep is amazing. Oh crap, we've been getting chats.
No, we had some viewers.
Yeah. No, I've seen viewers. I just didn't realize we had chat it and see the blue mark. I apologize if I haven't gotten to your comments, guys. They put this little tiny blue dot on the chat window that like is microscopic on my screen because I have such high resolution.
I will next time because I didn't see it either.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I promise I do not ignore you guys. I appreciate everyone who watches. Yeah. But all that being said, yeah, world building. But yeah, Mask of Nyarlathotep is very similar to Shadows of Yog-Sothoth in that it starts off with a very kind of innocuous, simple murder, and the next thing you know, you have been drawn into like a world-ending conspiracy. And they are both grand examples of doing that. So, like I said, I know Mask can be a little controversial because of some of the changes they made in 7th edition. And guys, I don't care about any of that. I'm talking about it as an adventure, not about the internal workings of it. Not about what they put into the books and all that crap. And yes, I own 7th edition Mask of Nyarlathotep. And I'm very happy with it.
I have a question for you. Have you ever had a campaign where the world itself became the main antagonist? I only asked this because of one of my favorite settings is A Long Winter. And
okay, so have not gotten to run it, have read it, do own it, and that would be The Apocalypse Stone by Bruce Cordell.
How does that play out?
You do a mission that you think is just kind of standard, and it sets off the apocalypse.
Oh, okay.
So the world actually becomes kind of a villain against you. There is a main villain, but the world itself works against you as well. It's the last adventure ever written for 2nd edition, and they basically told Bruce Cordell and his co-author, go nuts. So if you know anything about Bruce Cordell, his adventures are pretty freaking wild in the first place.
So my favorite one is Long Winter by Luka Rezek. And you basically have like a timer because it keeps track of all the days and what the temperature is outside. There's a curse on the particular region from a Ice Queen, I believe. It's been a while. But as you're adventuring, looting tombs and visiting and doing quests in the various different little towns there, there's a timer. And after a certain timer, the game shifts from just a standard adventuring caravan RPG to you're either going to freeze to death here or you're going to with all your loot, or you're going to leave it all and you're going to escape because it's a survival situation. It hides it from the players, and it's really cool to pull on the players. You can only get them once with this, but it's a really awesome experience because it's like a curveball.
On that same vein, I'm going to ask a question just to see where you go with it. You don't even have to run it, just read it, whatever. What would be your favorite pre-written adventure from not just from how it plays, but from a pure world building standpoint?
Oh, that's easy. Castle Amber.
Castle Amber.
And you introduced that to me too.
I love Castle Amber. Great game. I'm gonna go i7. I'm gonna go Ravenloft, original Ravenloft by Tracy and Laura Hickman. It's the first time. It was the first time in D&D history where the villain was an active villain. He didn't just like sit back and wait for you to show up. He moved around. He did things to you. He would attack you randomly. All kinds of crazy things. In fact, there's a whole section in i7 that says, play Strahd smart. Don't play him like a typical villain. He's very intelligent, very, very, very tactical, very strategic.
I'm very sad that we didn't get to finish Castle Amber.
Me too.
I mean, we did, but we didn't actually get to the Wilden part because it turns into a little hex crawl.
It turns into a hex crawl, and then you have to defeat that. Then you got to go back to the castle, and
the giant mecha walker thing.
Yes.
And
you have to break the curse of the family, and it's a fun little adventure.
Yes.
Amber's up there with me. I definitely love Amber. I love Castle Amber. Tomb of the Lizard King definitely is up there. Slave Pits of the Undercity. All those are great adventures. The Nomad series.
I would say Halls of Ardenvul is probably a masterclass of like just mega dungeons and just like it's the closest thing to if you wanted to run a game that would feel like Indiana Jones. There's a ridiculous amount of history spanning thousands of years.
Yes.
Through all the rooms and levels of the area, and the areas outside the dungeon are really fleshed out. And by the way, Richard Barton released a new dungeon.
Nice.
And that's
non-D&D adventures that are newer that I would say are definitely great world building. I've run it a couple times. I ran it with you guys. Amber Rage for Dragon Age is incredibly well done. Lots of player choice actually in that adventure. Surprisingly large amounts considering it's a pre-written adventure. And a modern one at that. You guys had a lot of control over how that thing shook out.
I liked playing Qunari. That was as wide as he was tall.
Yeah,
he was the shortest Qunari.
Too bad you genocided the fairies.
We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have fairy experts.
That's right. Oh, it's because their song didn't work on you. You guys all passed the check for the song. And if you actually get affected by the song tells you their full story and you realize what they're eating.
Oh, well, that's on them.
More like on the dice. But yeah, so great. But there are tons of great adventures out there that can show you really great world building. A lot of them are D&D adventures because D&D adventures are so ubiquitous. But man, if you want to see some games that have written adventures and not D&D, the A series from Castles and Crusades is amazeballs. The Chenault brothers once again knock it out of the park. I know you're not as big of a Castles and Crusades fan, but that adventure series is really good. They definitely have some great ones. The Dune RPG, the Fall of the Imperium, is incredibly well done. It basically lets you play the events surrounding the Mahadip during the first Dune movie. So that's a great adventure. Joel of Yavin for Edge of the Empire is really good. Super well done adventure. Again, these are all newer adventures, guys. These are within like last 15 years. 10, 15 years.
The one setting that I absolutely despise is Yegsburg. I think it's Gary Gygax's worst work. I don't know why it penalizes every other character but like a wizard.
Yeah.
Like in order to buy a non-magical sword, costs like 6,000 to 8,000 gold. When I could be buying level 5 spells for like 500. Nice. It just seems like that game was designed to tick off the players. Yeah. It's very oppressive.
Absolutely. I'll give you two great adventures that are non-D&D that are both a little older. that I have played through both of them, and I love them. They're both L5R. Night of a Thousand Screams, absolutely fucking wonderful. Clay, I absolutely owe you like $1 million for running us through that, because I had so much. I killed a Mama San in that game on accident. I hit her in the head with the hilt of my katana. I didn't call that I was trying to pull the blow, and I crit rolled it. I rolled like a champ, and I crushed her skull. And the second one is Tomb of Ishiban, which I also played. I played through the Tomb of Ishiban as an Otomo courtier. Yeah, that was scary. I almost didn't survive that one. If Andrew had not been playing the Bushi he was playing, I probably would have died very easily. Because I am. I could have talked the Emperor into becoming a Catholic, but getting stabbed by spiked pits, not so much.
I have a funny question here, kind of based off of the last question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle the aftermath when players permanently change or destroy a major part of the setting?
I try to roll with it as much as I can, as long as it's not going to alter my future plans. In that case, it depends on how they do it. So, like, take, for example, if they blow up the castle of the king and you need the king to still be in the adventure, like, I'll fudge the crap out of the fact that, like, he escaped through, like, a secret tunnel and he's going to rebuild or whatever.
He's probably going to be pissed at the players.
Yeah, he's going to be pissed. Yeah. So, a lot of my GMing style relies on improvisation, because I tend to roll with what the players do. And like I said earlier, I know a lot of people write out a lot of their stuff. I don't tend to do that. I tend to be like, okay, this is what I envision happening in this session from start to finish. You're going to start here. Here's kind of where I want you to end. And what happens in between, I kind of loosely flesh out. And then I say, okay, and then I think to myself, well, what happens if they zig instead of zag? So I don't write it out. I'm like, okay, because if there's a total possibility that they're going to miss this clue or they're going to take it a different direction that I intend it to go. And then I just kind of have to improvise a way to get you back towards where I've envisioned the end of the adventure. And by that, I don't mean I railroad you. I mean, I just redirect towards where I see the logical endpoint of the session. Just using an example from our last Alternity game, right? You guys are in Oklahoma City. You're investigating these dead bodies, yada, 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 right? Well, you get back. You talk to Hillary Foster. You go back to your hotel room, and she calls you and is like panicking, freaking out. I never intended for her to call you originally. It's just the actions you guys took. The only way to get you to the logical endpoint I wanted was to have her call you and have you react to it.
I got another question, sir. I think it's a little two-parter. Do you prefer physical notebooks, maps, digital tools, or a mix? What actually sticks for you long-term? And how do you organize setting notes so you could actually find things months later when you need them?
I have actually gotten a lot more digital, because digital is so easy to put into the cloud and stuff now. So if I have to switch my computer out, and with my little destructive monster, physical stuff can be destroyed.
Sadly.
Just ask me about a $60 board game. Yeah. By the way, I never told my friend that he destroyed that. I just bought another copy and never said anything.
You know that I use a lot of Obsidian for all this stuff.
Yeah, you use Obsidian. I don't use Obsidian, but like if I generate a map out of AI like I did for Mapleton College, it's in a folder on my computer.
Okay.
So if I needed to change this computer out, I would just upload it to a Google Drive and then download it to a new computer.
Do you ever use random generators extensively? Like
yes.
Like tables from a book or online generation tools?
Yes.
Would you have any that you recommend for people?
There's been some good name generators that I've found. I don't have them saved. I found one that let me generate like 10 or 12 names at once. And you could you could set all kinds of parameters around it. It might be in my bookmarks. I'd have to look. But it let me set like 10 or 12 names at a time. And you could set like backgrounds and sexes. Like, so if you wanted 12 men, you could just do male names from Anglo backgrounds and get basically 12 English sounding names. Or you could just do random and it'll give you 12 names from everything. And it was really cool. I do a lot of AI generation as well. So I use ChatGPT mostly. But like if I need a college campus map, ChatGPT is perfectly acceptable for that. Guys, let me go on a little side rant here. Anyone who's telling you AI is like a terrible tool for role playing and stuff, don't listen to them. It hath its uses. One of them is if you need a map really fast, AI will absolutely save your ass.
If you want to avoid AI, here, I'm going to put this on my screen.
Yeah.
So the vanilla game by Sinclair here, Jared Sinclair. It's basically the open version of White Hack if you want to write a game that uses a similar system.
Mhm.
But it's a free game that's online. And on its main page, if you need a dungeon map, it goes to the Wazaba itch.io generator. It'll generate maps for you. I believe it's not AI. I'm not too sure. It's been around for a while since before AI was a really big thing. So it might be just an algorithm.
There's some really good dungeon generators out there that are API script rather than AI. Yeah. Very similar. Yeah, it does a lot of really cool stuff like that. I've found over the years, I found tons of good generation tools. If you're looking, honestly, if you're looking for digital tools, though, they're out there. I can't think of any of them off my top of my head that I've used because I've used a lot. But like you know, a lot of the API map generators, they're so specific anymore. You can tell it that you want it to be circular rather than square. You can tell it how many rooms you want. You can do all that stuff. You know, do you want it to be multiple rooms? Do you want it to be less rooms? All that kind of stuff is doable now. That one's really good. Helps you develop towns. And I actually have used that one before for a town, believe that or not.
Yep.
I didn't realize it was that one, but I've used that one before. So there's a lot of really, really good things out there digitally. But yeah, my AI stance, it has pretty much changed over the last couple of, like, I'd say last year or so. I used to not be a big fan of AI, and because I was looking at it from the end of practicality and how it's going to affect the economy and all that kind of stuff. And if you're using AI for basic stuff like, oh, I want to create a character portrait for this NPC, there's nothing wrong with it, guys. It is a lifesaver. And if you're a low prep GM, if you are a constrained GM, you don't have a lot of time, anything like that, AI will save your butt. It really will.
It's useful for players too. If you have an open-ended magic system, I always tell my players, if you're playing a wise wizard, if you don't know how to attach your keywords and associate it and triangulate it with your profession, ask AI. How would what would I use, like an oracle profession triangulate with these two words right here? I could come up with some spells I could use. Definitely do that.
Also, guys, I'm gonna say it, and it's gonna sound controversial. Don't be afraid to use AI if you're stuck on like creating a history of a world. Go to AI and say, "Give me a basic history of a fantasy world," and you can change it if you want.
So for running games, completely fine. If you're writing actual published content, don't do it.
Don't do that if you're publishing. I agree. But if it's your home game and you're just stuck, and you're like, I don't know what happened 1,000 years ago, and somebody may want to know, go to AI and just say, hey, give me a basic history. And again, you can pull it off the AI, copy pasta into Word or Word document format, and change anything you need to change. Just it will give you a good starting point at a minimum. Like I said, I know AI is controversial in the RPG space, but guys, it does have its uses. It is a useful tool. It does not have to be viewed skeptically.
Yeah. Like the most common use for AI is to actually create session notes. Like not necessarily like create it, but if you're taking notes, it could actually summarize it for you very
like
quickly.
I can get for my players in my games. If you ever miss a session and you don't have time to watch the video, you can download the video from YouTube, feed it into an AI, and it will summarize it.
Yep.
I mean, don't be so skeptical of AI that you think it's like evil or something. It definitely, I think it does have some uses that can be nefarious, but I think if you're just using it for mundane purposes, it's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah. There is a AI out there that is very useful that I recommend. It's Notebook LM. It's cool, like Gemini type style. I think they changed the name of it. It could create flashcards. It could do pretty much everything to even like you'll have like a dude and a chick like talking about the subject matter. You could raise your hand like digitally, of course. You just click the hand type thing, and you could ask some questions. So it'll be like a lecture, and it's a great way to parse like a very rules heavy system. And you can do that with YouTube videos, as Legacy said. I've done it with Thoreau with Gary Lewis. I would just plug in all the YouTube videos, and because it's like a mystery, I'd be able to compile all the videos together, and I use it to help figure out where the story's going, and who the culprits are in particular. Because a lot of the times the GM will think that he's doing a good job dropping the hints, and none of the players will pick up on it. And you could use the YouTube transcripts to make up that lag.
We have been going for 2 hours, so let's go ahead and get ready to close out here. I'll let you have the first word here. Just world building, last thoughts.
World building is I'm from the style of GM that can't write for shit, but I'm really good with solo gaming and generating stuff that way. And I believe that is a my optimal way of prepping for games. Do not feel like you need to be a good writer to run games. It's a game. You're overthinking it. I do know that there are people that really do like the story aspects. Like I have friends that like playing Daggerheart and stuff like that. They're more theatrical about it, and they like acting. And I'm not one of those people. There's no wrong way to doing it, but basically, you just want to remember it is a game. Try not to just railroad your novel that you're writing. It's not fun.
I concur with everything you said. On my side, guys, world building is, I would argue, probably the most important part of the GM's toolkit. It is essential to making a game work. If you have a bad world, you're going to have a bad time. From a new GM perspective, guys, start with established worlds. Don't rush into trying to create your own stuff all the time. There's nothing wrong with doing that if you're good at it, but my best piece of advice I can give for new GMs: start with something established, even if it's just a series of one shots to get a good feel for how living worlds work and all that, and then start developing your own stuff. Because at a minimum, read good established lore. Like I said, there are worlds that have been around for 45 years. That there's a reason for it. Faerun Traveler, Faerun, Glorantha. These worlds have been around for 40 and 45 years, guys. There's a reason. So look at them, learn from them. As far as, how I play games and run games, I'm very improvised. I don't put a lot in writing, but I do try to keep things consistent. I do try to keep things fun. Hopefully anybody who's been watching our live play sees that. I especially the alternative game, because as far as I can tell, everyone's having fun with that game. We have a ton of fun with that and getting into all that. But one piece of advice I can give you, again, I know the company's controversial. I know the people that publish it are controversial, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to get into the debate over it. The Kobold's Guide to World Building is an incredible set of essays. You don't have to like the guys that wrote them. You don't have to agree with them. They know what they're freaking talking about. Pick that book up. I promise you will open your eyes to some things you have never seen before.
I want to throw in one more thing. So, world building in particular, especially, it's not actually world building. Don't use AI to create published works. It's
I would agree with that.
It's always going to be controversial. You're going to get a lot of backlash when you write published material, especially for like tabletop role playing games. You're not writing a novel. You're writing a lore book. Anybody can write lore. Put in the extra effort to do that, because all it is literally you have the game mechanics and you have lore. Everybody can write lore, and there's a lot of people in the scene that are getting into this scene wanting to become like an established author or publisher and stuff like that, and going to be using AI to do that. Don't be lazy.
Don't.
I would agree. If it's for your house game to have fun, like maybe you're like streaming it for free on YouTube for people to watch, that's totally fine in my opinion. You're not charging people money to do that. That's completely fine. But if you're trying to sell material, no, don't do it. Just put in the little extra effort. Just put the little bit of extra effort to actually write for yourself, because it's fun, and you can practice that by solo journaling and solo playing.
And in that same vein, just as we close out, just so you know, if you're writing your own lore, there is nothing wrong with feeding it through AI to see if it'll catch spelling errors, syntax errors, things like that.
Yeah,
because you're not using it to write; you're using it to correct. Because right now, editors are expensive. I'm just not gonna lie. Having an editor is not cheap.
AI won't catch everything, and that does hallucinate.
It doesn't catch everything. It's not going to be perfect, but guys, I know guys that publish that do use AI because they can't afford an editor. So editors are expensive. They are not cheap, like thousands of dollars an hour expensive.
Creators that do use AI to create published material that's free, I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
because there should be more game, because you can't copyright like game mechanics, and it's great to see how people utilize certain game mechanics into the way they play around with like games, because you want to actually try playing around with it, and if you could get it to a larger, wider audience, especially in countries where they can't afford, like for instance Brazil. Brazil's like one of those countries that actually had to create their own TTRPGs, specifically because like on DriveThruRPG, they don't like scale the price difference.
Nope.
They're literally paying a good portion of what they make a year just to buy one of those books over there. Yeah. That's why itch.io has a lot of books for like $5 or less.
I was gonna say the same thing. You could say there's a couple of countries that I could add to that list. India, Pakistan's in that area as well. They have fairly easy access to Japanese, Korean, and Chinese stuff. But when it comes to American and European made stuff, not so much. So guys, if you're going to charge those people $20 a book, put some effort into it.
Put some effort into it, or like in general, like a lot of the AI hate actually comes from here, from the United States and in the West in general.
Yep.
It's seen completely differently in the rest of the world.
Yes, it is. But either way, guys, that's all we got today. We will, like I said, we'll be doing another one of these next week, and then it'll be bi-weekly from there. So keep your heads up. We will be starting at the normal time next week at 1 o'clock. Today was just a fiasco of scheduling. But either way, guys, we appreciate it. As always, leave thoughts, comments, questions, concerns below. And as always, please follow the 3 rules. Do not ad hominem. Do not pick fights. Do not leave me college dissertations. I don't need 2,000-word essays on why I'm right or wrong or whatever. I don't have time to read them. I really don't. Other than that, guys, we hope to see you guys around the game table, and we do hope you guys have fun.
Thanks for having me.